The website 38 North, which is connected to Johns Hopkins University, a notorious anti-DPRK source of information, referred to as respected in the Telegraph article, is now making the claim that the DPRK is testing chemical weapons on prisoners, particularly in Camp 22, which is strange because another source says all the prisoners in Camp 22 have been completely killed off. Again, we're talking about anti-DPRK sources, which means they don't check with each other to make sure that they're not contradicting each other. Either way, this claim comes from a supposed security guard who left the country. He defected, and now he's supposedly saying that he's seen all this stuff where people, regular people, prisoners, have chemical weapons tested on them, which of course, as per usual, has absolutely nothing to back it up whatsoever. Normally a family sticks together and individual prisoners stand separately around the corners. Kwan Kyak, a pseudonym, said in a documentary cited by the report, scientists observed the entire process from above through the glass. I watched the whole family being tested on suffocating gas and dying in the gas chamber. Parents, one son, and a daughter, he said. The parents were vomiting and dying until the very last moment. They tried to save the kids by doing mouth-to-mouth breathing. I had to go to the 38 North website to actually look at this study. Now, when I went through it, it actually says these claims are extremely difficult to confirm. And right after that, they give a link to a source for an article from the Chicago Tribune and Al Jazeera from 2009. So from this, we pretty much get the idea that extremely difficult to confirm means it's not actually confirmed at all, meaning they don't really have anything to back it up. Now, very typically, what they try to do is just make the reader assume that it's true because of things that they've said that they have not proved in the past to back it up. Taken as a whole, and within the context of what is currently known about the treatment of political prisoners within the DPRK, such reports suggest a long-standing DPRK policy of low-level lethal testing of chemical agents on unwilling human subjects. Essentially what they're saying is that these long-term studies seem to suggest, but it has nothing to back it up. Now, what the article, the report here is doing is very dishonest. It is, here is a bad history of human rights, which have also actually not been proven, and which have sometimes outright proven to have been fabricated by media. Here's a supposedly bad past, so what we're saying here in the here and now, which has nothing to back it up, must therefore be true. They're making a pretty bold assertion here. We are expected to believe that this claim now is supposedly correct based on claims that have not been proven in the past. Now, this is tremendously, ridiculously dishonest. And frankly, if this is the kind of thing Johns Hopkins wants to put out, then I question its academic usefulness. I also don't see it as any coincidence that these claims are coming out now. After all, we've had the ongoing drama of chemical weapons being used in Syria. Now, we also do know for a fact, because it has been confirmed from all parties, that North Korean military advisors are there in the country. So it is no doubt that these same NATO powers are looking for something to blame on North Korea, or connect this to North Korea somehow. And it has, because there have been recent claims that the DPRK is now sending chemical weapons to Syria, or that they have been selling them or trading them, depending on whose version of the story you've watched. Of course, this doesn't really seem to make much sense, given that there's no evidence that the Syrian government actually used them, and there's absolutely, basically almost downright proof that it is actually the FSA, backed by NATO, that has used chemical weapons on people. Even inspectors themselves have said there's no evidence whatsoever that the Syrian government has actually used them. But somehow, because we're supposed to believe they have, without anything to back it up, we are now supposed to believe the claim that the DPRK is giving it to them, or is selling it to them, or trading with them, depending on the story. We see a reoccurring pattern here. We have given a vague assertion with nothing to back it up, and we're going to tell you that it's believable given this vague, unconfirmed assertion that we've made in the past. In other words, there's a hell of a lot of fiction here and absolutely nothing to back it up. In the end, this is completely laughable given that we do now know that the only proof of who used a chemical weapon is basically the FSA. The inspectors who went through and took a look at the incident saw that the the missile that was carrying, or the artillery, whichever it was, that was carrying the chemical was from its trajectory, came from a known FSA stronghold where it could not have been launched by the government. So it's annoying yet very laughable to see that at this time, as it's being claimed that the DPRK has chemical weapons, of which proof isn't being presented, the United States government, primarily, and that's who I feel is actually really behind this, is putting out the idea that the DPRK is behind, the transfer of chemical weapons, while they themselves are backing up people who are actually using them. So in the end, there's really nothing here to back up this claim. It is, of course, always rests on this foundation that they're testing it on political prisoners, and everybody in jail is a political prisoner because nobody actually breaks the law or anything. Human nature is supposedly so very terrible and everybody's inherently evil, except in a communist country where everybody is just locked up for simply disagreeing with the government. But again, this is very typical for the Telegraph. This is starting to become very typical for 38 North, connected to Johns Hopkins, who frankly really, really ought to get their stuff together if they're going to produce, some kind of paper making these kind of claims against North Korea. Thank you for watching. Go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, share on various social media, and if you want, there's some other great content here you could check out.